This meeting is being recorded.
Hello and welcome everyone to this ALT webinar. We will just give it just a moment to let everyone kind of filter in and join. We know that we've just had some fairly last minute technical problems on our side, so we know that it can can be difficult to join sometimes. We'll just give it just a moment. Looks like we've got lots of you here, which is really great to see, and definitely some names that I am familiar with. Okay, I think let's just jump straight into it. So yes, hello and welcome to you all. It's a real pleasure to be bringing this webinar about the success of Vevox at the University of Leeds to you all today. So let's just jump right into it. In today's session, we're going to be kind of starting off just with a couple of introductions, a couple of polls. It's a Vevox related webinar, so it makes sense. And then, the bulk of the time will be spent with Stuart from the University of Leeds, talking about their experience with Vevox. At the end, we'll make sure we leave some time for Q&A. And we'll share a bit more. I'll share a couple more details on that in a moment. Now, before I do jump into introductions, I just wanted to quickly say we're heading to ALTC up in Glasgow this year, and that's obviously just in a few weeks' time. So if you are heading up to Glasgow, please do come and speak with us at our booth. We'll even have some green matcha tea for you all on the Friday morning. So if you wake up with a sore head after the gala dinner on Thursday night, then that might help you out. So Vevox, who are we? So Vevox is the #1 independently rated student polling solution in the UK, and that's across kind of all platforms. So that includes things like G2, Capterra, and Trustpilot, and you can see those badges from some of those sites at the bottom there. Vevox is the institution-wide student polling solution of choice for 71 UK/Irish universities, and of course that includes the University of Leeds. But for a couple of introductions to your kind of hosts today. So I'm your first one, but we'll be very much spending most of our time with Stuart today. So I'm Ethan. I'm a senior customer success manager at Vevox. Hence why I'm kind of familiar with a few of you that are here today. I've been at Vevox nearly 3 years and have about over 5 years of experience in customer success. And I work with a whole host of universities across the UK, Ireland, and beyond to bring a kind of successful Vevox experience to those universities. I've got the pleasure today we've all got the pleasure today of being joined with Stuart Robinson. Stuart is the systems manager within the kind of digital education at the University of Leeds. Stuart is an experienced higher ed professional and has been at the University of Leeds for around 18 years and supports the use of Blackboard, Turnitin, Pebblepad, and Vevox. So, of course, with it being, as I say, a Vevox related webinar, as you would probably expect, we're going to be using Vevox for a couple of things throughout today's webinar. So what I'd like you all to do now is to go ahead and scan that QR code that is on screen there. I'm actually going to do the same so I can ask you any questions that come up as we go through. So if you've got your mobile device, please do go and scan that QR code, which I have just realized is potentially the wrong one. So I'll share another QR code in a minute. Ignore me for the moment. I think I might have given you the wrong joining instructions somehow there. Now, when you join the Vevox session, again, that QR code is going to be wrong as well. When you join the Vevox session, it'll look something like this. And the polls will pop up automatically. So I'll have a couple of polls in a minute. You can ask your questions from that middle tab that you see there. And then finally, we have a survey open throughout the whole of the session and the whole of the webinar, which is Vevox's Top Voices survey. So this is for, if you know someone who deserves recognition for their innovation in the classroom or within your institution, you can please kind of take a minute to share your picks for our top voices in higher ed for 2026. And you can submit that nomination directly through the Vevox survey in the Vevox session. Now, let me just jump across to Vevox and share the right joining instructions with you today. That's very embarrassing that I've managed to get that wrong. But those are the joining instructions for today. So please do go ahead and scan that QR code that you see on screen. That will take you into that Vevox session. So you can either scan the QR code, or you can, if you're maybe on a laptop and watching, you can go to another browser and type in vevox.app and enter in the 9-digit ID, which is 146270773. And I'm just going to kick us off with a couple of Vevox polls, just to kind of get things going and get things flowing. So first question is just, what are you hoping to get out of today? It's just always interesting to know what people are kind of have joined for, and I'm sure if you have any kind of questions throughout as Stuart is presenting, then we'll be sure to answer those. So how to get my staff to use Vevox effectively, get some tips for engagement. Absolutely. How to increase student participation. Yeah. Learn from others. I think that's probably the key one, and the key reason we're all here today is so that we can learn from others. All right, fantastic. Thank you. I'm actually kind of struggling to keep up with all of these, but thank you very much for participating in that one. I'll just do one quick more. I like this one, sorry. Hoping to get the system at our uni and want to know more. That's what we like to see. So I'm just going to open up one more, and it's just to ask, what role are you in? So what's your role kind of at your university? So learning tech coming out on top, but we've got learning designer, CTL director, Vevox champion, very nice. TELS manager, lecturer, jack of many trades. I'm sure that can probably that probably covers all of you. Fantastic. We've got a nice mix here, actually. That's yeah, they've got a legend in here as well. Absolutely. Educational advisor, academic, student services, student support. Fantastic. Yeah, we've got a really nice mix there. And I'm sure that what Stuart's about to share will kind of very much help with all of you. So without further ado, I've been talking enough already. I'm going to go ahead and just close that poll, and I'm going to hand over to Stuart now. So Stuart, please take it away.
Thanks, Ethan. I'm just going to share my screen here. Bear with me. And so you should at least be seeing my slide.
Yeah.
If someone can give me a thumbs up or say yes. Is that visible to everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Wonderful. So good afternoon. Today I'll be sharing the University of Leeds experience in procuring and implementing Vevox I was drawn to that comment just earlier, someone looking to get at their uni. I'm hoping this presentation might provide some pointers specifically to that person. I'll begin by explaining why we needed a polling solution, and then I'll move into how we approach the procurement process, the implementation strategy we adopted, and the outcomes we've observed. I'll also cover how staff and students have responded, and finally what we've learned that might be useful to some of you here who are looking at Vevox for the first time. So at Leeds, we were aware for some time that colleagues were asking for a reliable, easy to use polling tool. There were workarounds in place, but there was no real supported institutional solution. We'd previously procured an LMS with a quizzing solution, which was supposed to address this requirement. But in practice, staff wanting a quick to use tool found it cumbersome to use, and simply weren't using it for polling. It was also very, very expensive. The feedback from staff was consistent. They wanted something straightforward, something with minimal cognitive burden, something easy to use, so they could concentrate on teaching rather than managing technology. And they also wanted something that could work at scale in large lecture theatres without being dependent on operating systems, different technologies, or support. Equally important to us was integration. Any tool we introduced needed to connect seamlessly with Minerva, which is our Blackboard learning management system, and with the Microsoft 365 applications like Teams and PowerPoint. And those were the criteria that form the foundation of our requirements for the procurement. So to move this forward at Leeds, we developed a business case that reflected teaching, learning, and technical needs. So on the teaching and learning side, the pedagogical side, we focus on how polling can increase engagement, provide immediate feedback on student understanding, and create opportunities for more interactive learning. And by framing the case in this way, we're able to demonstrate that a polling solution would be a valuable part of our digital education environment at Leeds. And on the technical side, we emphasize scalability and accessibility and interoperability. So a little bit about the procurement. Given the projected cost of the solutions we were looking at, we were required to go through a full tender process. So it was an open call issued to providers of polling tools. We set out both the functional and non-functional requirements, such as ease of use, accessibility, integrations. We also did things like requiring suppliers to provide evidence of their work with other higher educational institutions and to submit a 2-year quotation. Just as with any other procurement process, applications were assessed against the criteria, and the strongest candidates were invited to present demonstrations. So these demos involved a wide group of stakeholders from Leeds, from across the university, academics, students, learning technologists, system staff, and others. And after collecting and analysing feedback, we prepared a recommendation paper, and Vevox scored consistently highly across all areas. And we eventually selected it as a solution for Leeds. Implementation began in September 23. So rather than piloting the system, we made a conscious decision to launch straight into business as usual. So our rationale for that decision was that colleagues were experiencing what we described at the time as a kind of pilot fatigue. Leeds likes to explore lots of different tooling. We'd had repeated pilots of digital tools. But one of the things with pilots is you're not always committing to continually support that product. And, you know, without the promise of long-term adoption or continuity, there's hesitancy from staff to engage with pilots sometimes. We found by committing immediately, we gave the tool the visibility and the momentum it needed to provide staff with confidence they needed in our support and confidence that the tool would be around. So to support implementation, Vevox provided train the trainer sessions for learning techs and members of the central systems team, which I'm part of. And this ensured we had knowledgeable staff embedded across faculties from the outset, because we have centrally provided learning texts embedded across all faculties at Leeds. Alongside this, we had a kickoff call with Vevox, to talk about the integration, gain some experience on how to integrate it. And one of the things that was kind of a first in my product procurements was Vevox were really keen to set success parameters for the project, which is kind of difficult for us to do initially because we'd just coming out of a system really where we hadn't really seen success with polling. So it was hard to give an estimate of what kind of take up we would see. We initially set active users for the first year to be 185 users, so 185 pollsters, if you like, poll creators. In the end, we ended up with 478 poll creators. And that was kind of testament to the approach taken, the immediate exposure to the tool, ensuring people were seeing it in use at every opportunity. So we followed up the initial training with a program of demonstrations and workshops. Some of these were run centrally by our project lead. We had a single project lead for this implementation. Others sprung up organically or were facilitated by the faculty-based learning technology teams who we supported. We also showcased Vevox at university networks and events, using it both as a demonstration tool and as part of the event itself, so colleagues could experience it firsthand. And recognizing the importance of support, we established one-to-one booking service using the Microsoft Bookings tool in 365. This allowed staff to arrange individual sessions to resolve problems and explore specific use cases. Having that kind of personalized support helped colleagues build confidence, and it reduced the risk of them abandoning the tool if they encounter difficulties. By the second academic year, 24-25, we started to shift our approach a little. We deliberately reduced the central promotion and allowed adoption to just spread organically. This meant that staff were being introduced to Vevox by seeing colleagues use it everywhere else in lectures and seminars and meetings. And that peer-to-peer element proved to be very powerful. Staff trust the experience of their peers, and as a result, usage grew significantly without the level of central effort you might expect you'd have to invest. Over the course of the year, use of Vevox doubled. We also took advantage and advertised Vevox's all access training, which was available weekly. That allows us to scale really easily, and we don't have to run training ourselves, and our support staff could focus on the one-to-one support. One of the other advantages that Leeds has, or particularly what digital education at Leeds has, is the directorate is part of the software compliance process. So we were able to vet requests for new tools, and that gives us an opportunity to intercept requests for other software and to steer staff back towards existing funded solutions like Vevox. Kind of puts a limit on the proliferation of different tools on your campus if you can get in front of those requests quite early. As we continue to move into 25-26, we're going to do a blend of those two approaches, revisit some of the more engaged active promotion of the first year. And we'll continue to highlight the updates and new features and innovative practice on campus, while leaving some space for organic growth, that peer recommendation mechanism that's in force. And at the same time, we'll maintain a strong support model from the centre and in faculties. We want to ensure that colleagues can continue to experiment and adapt Vevox to their own needs. So how do we use it at Leeds? Most commonly, it's used in the classroom for short polls and quizzes. These allow the lectures to check understanding and encourage participation, particularly in large groups. But we've also seen more creative applications. One of my favorites, we had an in-class exhibition, and students were moving through a museum space, scanning QR codes, which were linked to a Vevox surveys, and their responses were captured in real time and tied to specific exhibits in the museum space. We've also seen the tool used for things like team away days and time quizzes, for the competitive element. And it's been adopted in the conferences at the university, open meetings, Q&As, where the functionality just allows those large audiences to submit and vote on questions and things like that. So what's our experience at Leeds with Vevox then? Colleagues have reported a range of positive experiences. So one described using Vevox to pause a lecture, poll students on their understanding, and then revisit areas that needed clarification. And another highlighted the value of anonymous questions, particularly in large cohorts where students might feel reluctant to speak up. Others have spoken about converting existing materials into interactive Vevox activities, which they found more engaging for students and more informative for themselves. And the student responses have been similarly favourable, very encouraging. We've got comments like the Vevox method was brilliant, lectures more engaging and enjoyable, it was my favourite module, those kind of things. Students are particularly valuing the opportunity to test their knowledge in real time and to engage actively with the material rather than just passively listening in a lecture. In terms of numbers, by 24-25, so a year into the integration, we were seeing more than 3,800 Vevox sessions. That involves something like 180,000 participants, over 19,000 polls. The figures kind of illustrate not just adoption, but sustained usage across the faculties and across a wide range of teaching and non-teaching contexts at Leeds. So in our first year, we had that 478 active users, which is far and above what we expected. It was above our success criteria, more than double, I think, nearly double. We were aiming for 185. And in year 2, we achieved 863. And we're hoping to achieve 1,000 active creators in the new academic year. So that's our year 3 target. Let's get over 1,000. The benefits extend beyond the numbers. We've seen staff becoming more willing to experiment with new teaching methods, knowing that strong support's in place. Students have reported greater satisfaction, particularly with the interactive aspects of their modules, and that the tools delivered value for money because we're using it in context beyond learning and teaching. Sometimes in institutions like ourselves, we have raw measures for the utility of a product, and that might be, costs per student, that kind of thing. But when you can start to establish the use of these tools outside of just the learning and teaching area, and get value for money by expanding its use out in the rest of the university. So Vevox has definitely become a tool for the whole community. It's regularly used in conferences, in workshops, away days, open meetings with the senior leadership. And in those settings, it allows these large distributed groups online and in person to participate meaningfully. It's reinforced its status as a versatile and trusted platform. Staff see tools like this used successfully in these contexts, and they're more willing to give it a go, especially when they're seeing senior leaders get on with the technology and use it successfully. So looking back, several factors have contributed to the success at Leeds, we think. First, the institutional support and integration with existing systems, ensured it was embedded and not peripheral to the university. We had to ensure the estate was up to date, and this highlighted some insufficiencies with software maintenance on machines out in teaching spaces. Second, our training and one-to-one support structures gave staff the confidence to adopt it. Our support was highly available with just enough resource to maintain responsiveness. I'll say it again, we've only required one person to run this implementation project at Leeds, and it's been highly successful. And the third thing contributing to the success is also peer visibility. It created a culture of experimentation and sharing. People see their colleagues using the tool, they see them using it easily, and they want to give it a go themselves. The kinds of lessons we would pass on to other institutions. The first one there is obviously you can completely avoid pilot fatigue with a product like Vevox. There was so much value in just committing fully from the outset, and that enabled us to create momentum around the tool. Another is that your peer advocates will be more persuasive than any central promotion you can do. If you're getting out there and talking to staff who are using this in lots of different interesting contexts, they're telling their colleagues and they're drumming up business for you organically. And finally, having those support structures in place is essential, not just at the launch, but continuing that through the life cycle of the tool. And we continue to have a person dedicated to supporting this tool actively at Leeds. So looking forward, we want to consolidate usage. We want to get over that 1,000 hump. We want to continue to highlight innovative practice and continue to adapt as the tool evolves. We're going to share case studies across the faculties, and we'll demonstrate new features in context, and we'll continue to maintain a balance between the central support and then the faculty's local autonomy, their ability to do what they want with the tools that we provide them. We want to ensure that the central service doesn't get in the way of experimentation or in any way kind of curtails adoption of the product across Leeds. So, yeah, in summary, I guess we would say that Vevox is embedded, in our teaching, but it's also in our events, and it's also part of the wider life of the university. It's used everywhere. You see it used at the Christmas do, that kind of thing. It supports interaction. It's playful. It encourages engagement. It provides staff and students with simple and powerful ways to connect real time. And one of the things I'd just like to kind of finish off with was a thought from my system lead. She casually dropped this in a one-to-one meeting a couple of years ago during the rollout, and she said it was really easy to roll out a tool which sells itself. And I have to say that's our experience with the product at Leeds. I feel like a bit of a fraud. We've got some kind of magic for the reason it's been successful for us. But I think some of that magic is actually the ease of use of the tool. The product's very easy to sell. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has. And I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much, Stuart. That was really interesting. I can't. There we go. Yeah, really interesting. And from my side, I've been lucky enough to be involved in the Vevox project at Leeds from the get-go, and with my colleague Fraser, and then Ellie Dunn and Stuart have very much led the charge at Leeds. And it's been, the University of Leeds has been a stellar example of how to roll out a student platform at a university, and there's lots of useful kind of tips there that Stuart has shared with us. And I think just to kind of maybe from my perspective point out a couple of the ones that stood out or stand out to me would firstly be kind of that pilot fatigue that Stuart talked about. It's something that we come across at some of the universities that we work with is, and I don't think this is a Vevox specific problem. I think this is very much a problem just generally with these platforms, is that when something is advertised as a pilot, staff don't necessarily want to get involved because they worry that they'll build up their kind of content and their usage of it, and then it will go away. Which obviously kind of starts to become a bit of a vicious circle where, because no one's using it, the university thinks it's not a useful platform, which of course isn't the case. So I love what Leeds did around just opening it up from the start and just going with it. And I think another lesson that kind of some other universities can take from University of Leeds is certainly around the allowing for the scalability of the scalability that Vevox allows, at universities. So, you know, Vevox has we have our own support function and help sites that, forgive me, Stuart, I can't remember what Leeds do, but a lot of our universities very much just link out to our help sites. And then Stuart also mentioned our all access training sessions. So for those of you that aren't aware, for all of our institutional customers, Vevox offer all access training sessions at kind of key peak periods of the year. So there's actually, I think, one going on right now. And those happen this time of year and in January and February. And that very much allows our customers to not have to put on their own training, and actually just support staff on a one-to-one basis, where support is needed. And yeah, allows us to kind of take that burden. But that's enough of me talking. You know, you're not here for me. So what I'm going to do is share my screen again. There we go. Just with the Vevox Q&A. And well, before I do that, actually, just to quickly point out, yeah, if you've got any questions, please do pop them in the Q&A. But also, if you have any, we mentioned our top voices survey at the start of today's webinar, and yeah, we'd love it if you can just enter in or nominate someone in the community who, you know, is kind of being innovative with, you know, doesn't have to be Vevox, and don't necessarily expect it to be Vevox, innovative in the classroom or in the institution. And we'll be publishing a list, I think, towards the end of the year or early next year. Okay, let's come on to some questions. So the first one says, I think I heard you right, Stuart. Did you say Vevox was implemented at Leeds by a one-person project?
Absolutely. You can't have a name because you can't have a... we only used one staff member to manage the project. Of course, they were reaching out to other people in the rest of the university looking for participants and champions, etc. But yeah, the project was basically managed by one staff member, a kind of learning technologist system administrator. Obviously, I supported them, but they did all the work.
Yeah, and I think that just goes to show that, you know, it doesn't have to be, obviously it is a big project, there's no denying that, bringing on Vevox, but it's not a, I think, Stuart, you talked about bringing on another platform at the moment, and you know it's not it's not on the same sort of scale as size of project.
Yeah, I'm involved in another project at the moment, so we're implementing a video platform at Leeds to replace an existing one, and so that's touching dozens of stuff to implement, and is taking something like nearly 2 years, really. We're probably heading for 3 years, including all the lead up to procurement and business case and all that kind of thing. Yeah. But Vevox is a much simpler prospect to try and implement. The integration needs are quite contained. So you've got SSO to sort, those kind of things, LTIs. These are all reasonably trivial for colleagues in other parts of the institution to sort out for you. And so, yeah, for the most part, we didn't really require much more than that. The only thing I'd say is where we found we fell down a little bit was in the software support in the teaching spaces. What we wanted to take advantage of really early was that integration with PowerPoint. And we had a load of problems with just out-of-date PowerPoint on hardware around the campus. So that did require us to kind of draw on expertise from IT to get stuff pushed out to these kind of forgotten locations. Maintaining all those machines in a place the size of Leeds is, you know, it's another task in itself. There are actually thousands of PCs deployed across campus. So yeah, that's where we fell short a little bit, I think, was ensuring we had software compatibility, up to date Microsoft 365 installs around the place so we could take advantage of the Vevox PowerPoint integration.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Stuart.
Again, one person, sorted all of the liaison for that. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. Yeah, you're definitely not the only university to kind of have those teaching spaces be not necessarily as up to date as they could be.
Yeah.
Someone is saying it's refreshing to hear an implementation can be like this. So well done, Leeds and Vevox. But this is very much I'd say 95% of the work here was definitely done by Leeds. So yeah, very much well done to the team there. Someone saying amazing number of users adopting it straight away. Absolutely. That's certainly a viewpoint that we take as well, is from our perspective, the success of Leeds was, is very successful. Obviously, we're able to compare the performance of different universities, and Leeds is definitely right up there in kind of that kind of number of academic staff to users ratio. They're right up there. So Stuart, what would be your number one tip to a university soon to bring Vevox on board?
Well, having participated in a number of different product rollouts, I'd say the number one message is to make it as available as possible, as early as possible, but also to try and expose it to as many people as you can in as many contexts as you can. So one of my tasks for our project team implementing it was go out and find those highly visible occasions where we can get Vevox in front of people. So things like the strategic addresses to staff, conferencing activity, that kind of thing. And get the tool in front of people as quickly as possible, because they see it in use and they see the logo and they notice that it's appeared on your institutional tools website, and they organically kind of driven to the product once they see people using it successfully. And it sounds a bit trivial, but seeing someone very high up in the university using it and using it without problem is quite encouraging. People jumping on the bandwagon is what follows that kind of activity. And yeah, it just, that proved successful for us, just putting the product in front of people. So we didn't have to sell it too much. We just made sure people see it being used.
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. I think I can certainly echo this, and we work with the university in Northern Ireland, who I know at the beginning of, must have been the beginning of the previous academic year, so about a year ago, were running kind of a big town hall type thing with their pro vice chancellor, and they made sure to make sure that Vevox was being used for Q&A in that. And yeah, that meant that it was in front of every single member of staff, and it's not trying to kind of force it down their throat, not telling them to use Vevox. It's just getting them so they know they know they've heard of Vevox and they kind of know roughly what it can do. And like Stuart says, then they see those emails or things in newsletters from digital education, and they kind of make that link themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the problem for people like us in our position is we know that there are lots of different solutions being used on the QT in the university. 5 or 6 different polling platforms might be in use. Some of them are being paid for, some of them aren't. They're being used free. They're being used without any data protection or agreements on data security or anything like that. So as soon as people, as much as you can get this kind of officially supported product in front of your colleagues, the more likely they are to choose the institutionally supported tool. That's what we've seen anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I like what you said earlier, actually, Stuart, around what you're able to do with when staff members request a license to these other tools, and to be able to see those requests and go to them and talk to them about why they want it. And
yeah, I don't know if that's a unique process to Leeds. It's a contract information process. So whenever you want to buy something, a piece of software, you need to provide some evidence for the need and documentation around its compliance for things as basic as GDPR and that kind of stuff. But that information is then put in front of effectively a kind of board of expertise across the university, mostly IT, but some legal, some accessibility and digital education. And they will have an opportunity as quickly as possible to feed into comment on what people are asking for. So we're kind of heavily involved in that process. We're embedded in it. So any learning and teaching tools that come up for procurement, if someone's trying to buy it, they might be trying to buy it on a departmental credit card or something like that, then it gets flagged to us and we can see, so you can head off the calls for lots of different tools across campus if you can just go to that person and say, hey, have you tried using this instead of buying that? And you can do some one-to-one support with them as well. And quite often you can find that what they might have characterized as unique use cases actually just need talking out with somebody who knows the tooling and knows some of the ways it can be used, and eventually they come around. But I think we look at something like 3,000 tools a year at Leeds go through this process, and there's tens of thousands of different tools installed. And they all go through this process. It's kind of mandatory.
Thank you, Stuart. So next question is, how much initial training did Vevox staff do versus delivered by your own Leeds Uni staff? I can talk to how much we did. So we started off with a train the trainer session, and this is something we do for every single one of our new customers. Is a train the trainer session, and this is a fairly lengthy training session. It's normally about an hour and a half, but it goes through every single part of the platform, so that the trainers, the people that are going to be talking about Vevox and helping staff members and academics to use Vevox have all of the tools and all of the knowledge that they need to be able to kind of to help. Following on from that, Vevox ran a couple of kind of getting started sessions for Leeds. So that was very much just for Leeds, and kind of on that bespoke basis. And then on from that, I know it's not what this is asking about, but it sounds like Leeds have been relying and using our all access training sessions. But Stuart, do you have anything to add to that?
Only to say that our provision is a mix of different things. So we have in-person events, we've got live training, we've got on-demand training, and one-to-one support. So it's a big mix, but riding on the coattails of that vendor supplied training, it allows you to scale really easily, particularly the train the trainer stuff. Then as soon as we can get advocates out in the faculties, training colleagues on using this, then the demand on the central team decreases for that training at scale, and you can start to focus on the one-to-one stuff, the edge cases, people who are trying to convert from other systems, for example. One of the large pieces of activities for this conversion from our kind of Wild West and not quite appropriate tooling before we put Vevox in place was some kind of what we call a concierge service, really, helping people to migrate from other solutions into Vevox. And some of those are quite significant, where people were not really using the existing tooling for things like polling. They were using it for lots of other purposes. So there was a kind of a knock-on effect where we did have to do some additional work to take people with us, to start using Vevox and replace aspects of the previous solutions they were using with other tools in our ecosystem. One of the things that highlighted to us is that you don't want too many tools that can all do the same thing, which is one of the things we're able to address in this procurement. We effectively had a couple of LMSs when we really only need one. So yeah, lots of different kinds of training.
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. So I think you somewhat addressed this, but I'll ask if you've got anything else to add to it at all. But what has the student feedback been given the shift in participation rates?
That's a really good question. I don't think I can even answer it. I don't think I've got the granularity of feedback collected from students to show you anything for a shift over the time in the 3 years, really. That's a good question. I'll take that back to our technical lead and we'll see if we can get some info on that.
Yeah, I think obviously we can't necessarily speak for students, but it sounds like you had a certain number of users using your previous platform, and you have a lot more people using Vevox now. As mentioned earlier, it's kind of getting close to 1,000 active users, so it's no doubt that a lot more students are being touched and experiencing using Vevox and having that kind of interactive element in their lectures.
Yeah, it's pretty safe to say that everyone at Leeds has been exposed to Vevox. The kind of looking at the numbers of people who were still using one of the previous solutions at Leeds, I think we ended up with about 160 staff who were firmly embedded in it and had to be moved out. We thought we could improve on that a little bit in the first year. We really exceeded our own expectations on that. It's you've got that groundswell of staff activity in the product, and they're the ones creating the audience with students. They're the ones getting that 180,000 participants figure that we've been able to show in the second year of it. So feedback overall has been really positive.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Stuart. So a question about the Blackboard integration. So how much input is needed from Blackboard tech support in integrating Vevox with Blackboard?
It's an LTI integration. So Learning Tools Interoperability or something it stands for, I think. But LTI is the standard way of integrating all tools these days. It's very simple to do. There's only a few parameters you need to configure to make an LTI connect. So all of the traffic that flows through Blackboard to Vevox is passing the needed information to Vevox about the user and that kind of thing. It's very simple to do an LTI integration. It's very easy to sell an LTI integration to your IT teams on campus, because they come to you wanting things like backout plans and stuff like that when you go through the change management processes. And it's quite refreshing to be able to say, well, our backup plan for this is to just turn it off and go and consult with the documentation again if we did something wrong. Fortunately, with LTI, you rarely do anything wrong. You exchange a few kind of secrets, and that's about it. I'm not being flippant. LTI just works, and it works across all of the teams we use now, all of the tools we use in our ecosystem like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Stuart. I think from our perspective, the length of time it takes to set up our LTI very much depends on the amount of maybe red tape at the university that we're working with. The actual time it takes to set it up from an IT perspective.
Trivial.
I've worked with customers before where I've had like a kickoff call with them, shared details about how to set up the LTI, and it's been done later that day. But it's not a big thing at all.
It's a 10-minute job, and you'll spend most of your time in change management processes.
Yeah, that probably sums something up quite nicely, but I won't talk to that. So I think maybe let's just do a couple more questions. We've got loads in here, but I think just in the interest of time, let's just do a couple more. So this one is, do you use Vevox for any kind of student or module feedback?
It's used ad hoc for that. There is a module feedback process in Leeds which covers every single module in use. But yeah, it is used ad hoc for that kind of purpose.
Yeah. So I guess is that for, a lecturer wants, I guess, just feedback outside of that formal process.
Yeah. Or they're not engaging with the central process. They want to use something themselves, do a little bit bespoke. then they might use a
Okay.
tool like this.
Yeah. Is that a problem you generally find, is they don't involve with the central process, or is that, again,
No,
that kind of
no, we don't find that a problem at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And let's just do one more. This question is more for me, so okay, maybe I'll answer this one quickly. Any plans to integrate AI or grouping summaries to make it easier to get a start point in analyzing open text responses? I know this is feedback that we've had at Vevox a few times, so I'll absolutely mention it to our product team that this has been mentioned on this webinar. So yeah, user feedback from our customers goes a long way. We actually just had our kind of product release meeting for an upcoming update in a couple of weeks, just before this actually, and yeah, there's lots and lots of stuff coming that we can directly kind of point to customer feedback. But this is a great question. Blunt answer is it's not there at the moment, but that definitely doesn't mean that it won't be in the future. Okay, final one for you, Stuart. What challenges did you have? Would you do anything differently if making a change in tools again, even with the great success you've had? Incredible, by the way.
Would we do anything differently? No, I think the lesson for us has been we want to try and do this same thing as much as we can with tool rollouts at Leeds. Don't underestimate that. The problem of pilot fatigue. We've been through massive big bang installations of software at Leeds in the past. We've been through pilots that last several years, and a pilot is a surefire way to kill a product on campus if it rolls on for too long. I think the approach we took with this one was kind of educational for us in terms of thinking about how we roll out other tools. I think for those smaller tools like Vevox, the Padlets, those kind of things, where your risk is much lower, your investment of staff time, resource, money, etc., is a lot lower than, say, a rollout of a product like Blackboard or Panopto, which is the one we're doing at the moment. Then going all in as quickly as possible is probably a really valuable way to approach it. As long as you've got the support in place, you know where the staff are going to go, staff and students are going to go, find their support. You've got good support from the vendor, good documentation. Then you can go with this approach.
Okay. Thank you, Stuart. I think let's leave that there. I think we could be going a more longer if we came to all of the questions, but I think it just shows that people are really interested in how you've done it at Leeds, and interested in the success that you've had. So I just want to say thank you so much, everyone, for attending this webinar. Really hope it's been interesting and insightful for you. And if you are heading up, as I said before, if you are heading up to ALT in a few weeks' time up in Glasgow, do come and say hello. It'll be my colleagues Alan, Fraser, and myself will be there. And yeah, we'd love to have a chat. So thank you very much, everyone, and you're welcome to go now.